She cheated and left me for my best friend. She had no idea I was secretly making $500, $0 a year. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video, using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. So, let me tell you how everything went down. Maya cheated and left me for my best friend, not even bothering to realize I'd been secretly pulling in about $500,000 a year. I remember the exact moment decided to blow up our marriage. She was sitting at the kitchen table, casually scrolling through her phone like she had no worries at all. I just walked in from work, ready to drop my bag and unwind, and then she looked up and nonchalantly said, "James, I want a divorce." She didn't give any kind of preamble or soft words to soften the blow, just a straightforward, cold statement as if she were commenting on the weather. I froze for a second, trying to process what I just heard. "Excuse me," I asked, my voice steady on the outside but roiling inside. She repeated herself, tone mocking, as if I was too slow to get it the first time. Instead of feeling angry or devastated, like you'd expect, I was just stunned at her nerve. Divorce. After everything we'd been through together. That's what hit me hardest, the fact that she just tossed this out like it was nothing, all while crossing her arms and declaring she needed someone who actually works and pulls their weight around here. That wasn't the life I'd signed up for, I thought. I blinked, trying not to laugh at the absurdity of it all. She seemed so confident, so sure that she was making the right call, like she had it all figured out. I leaned back against the counter, studying her, and calmly said, "All right." She tilted her head, surprised that I wasn't losing it. "Yeah, if you want a divorce, I won't stand in your way," I told her simply. For a split second, I saw her face flicker with uncertainty, but she quickly masked it with that smug smile she always wore. "Good," she said, "because I've already talked to a lawyer. You'll need to move out by the end of the month." The nerve of her was almost comical, but I didn't bother arguing. If she wanted me gone, I'd leave for now. "Fair enough," I said, turning to head upstairs, feeling her eyes on my back, probably waiting for me to blow up or beg her to stay. But I kept my composure. Alone in our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and let it sink in. This wasn't just about divorce, it was about power. Wanted control, to make me the villain, maybe to guilt me into fighting for her or begging her to come back. But she didn't know me that well. The next few days were in passive-aggressive tactics. Suddenly had opinions on everything, from how I folded laundry to how I spent my evenings. She criticized my hobbies, my habits, even how I brewed my coffee. It was as if she was trying to justify her decision by turning me into the bad guy. And then there was my so-called best friend. At first, I didn't think much of how often she kept mentioning his name, said this, or suggested that, but soon it became obvious he was more than just a friend in her eyes. I didn't confront her about it. They weren't ready for me to tip my hand yet. I let her believe she was in control, that I was the clueless, passive husband who had no idea what was happening right under his nose. One night, while packing a suitcase with a few essentials, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, smirking. "So, have you figured out where you're going to stay?" she asked, dripping with condescension. I zipped up my bag and turned to face her. "Don't worry about me, I'll be just fine," I said plainly. She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed by my calm attitude. "Good," she snapped, "because and I are hosting a dinner party here next weekend. It would be pretty awkward if you were still around at a dinner in my house with my best friend." Her audacity was impressive. I shrugged with a small smile. "Don't worry," I said, shouldering the bag. "I'll be gone long before then." As I passed her, I caught a glimpse of her smug smile. She thought she'd won, that she was just watching me walk away defeated. But what didn't realize was that she just handed me the match to light the fuse. If she wanted to burn everything down, I was going to give her that fire, and I'd sit back and watch her and get consumed by it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or fighting, it's silence, patience, letting them dig their own graves while you quietly prepare to bury them. And trust me, I was just getting started. Betrayal is sneaky. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or fanfare. They sneak in through casual chats and meaningless gestures, until one day, You wake up and realize that what you thought was solid was actually crumbling piece by piece. The first crack was asking for a divorce. What came next was the slow unraveling of everything I believed I knew about her and my so-called best friend. I should seen it coming, but hindsight's a cruel thing. At first, she just casually mentions name more often said this, recommended that. I'd nod along, thinking it was harmless, but as the weeks went by, her words and tone got warmer, more frequent, and it twisted in my stomach. The first real red flag popped up on a Saturday afternoon when she returned from lunch with. She was laughing, cheeks flushed, like she hadn't done in years. When I asked what was so funny, she waved me off dismissively. Oh, it's just something said. You wouldn't get it. That's when I realized I'd been on the outside looking in, much earlier than I wanted to admit. I started noticing little things. Sly smiles when she texted, locking her phone sharpish if I tried to see what she was doing. She dressed up more whenever she had plans with. She'd make excuses we're just friends, or you're overthinking it, but I was starting to see the pattern. Of course, I didn't confront her. There'd be no point. She'd just deny everything, spin a story, and make me look like the paranoid husband. So I let her believe I was blind. Meanwhile, I kept paying attention. And then, the moment I knew everything was about to blow was when showed up at my house uninvited. I was in the midst of packing, fitting my everything into suitcases. When I heard the doorbell, opening it, there stood grinning, casual, walking straight in like we were still the best of friends. My man, he said, like we hadn't had any issues. How's it going? I stared at him, my patience strained thin. What do you want? I asked, voice even. He leaned against the wall, all charm, and said, just checking in. Told me you're moving out. I thought I'd see if you needed any help. The audacity. As if he was here to lend a hand, instead of the one trying to stake his claim on my life. I told him I had it handled, turned back to packing, and let him linger. From the corner of my eye, I saw that wheels turning. This wasn't just a friendly visit. He was here to rub it in, to stake his claim. Look, he said, softening his tone like he was being sincere. I know this is tough, but stuff happens, you know. Life's unpredictable. I straightened up, stepped closer, meeting his eyes. Yeah, things do happen. Sometimes they come back to bite you. That's when he faltered, his confident smirk wobbling, uncertainty replacing his arrogance. I didn't wait for him to get it together. I turned back to my suitcases. You've always been a smooth talker, he muttered, retreating toward the door. No hard feelings, right? I said nothing. Silence is a powerful thing, especially when someone's desperate for a reaction. He left without another word. As his car pulled out of the driveway, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Later that night, lying in the bed that was soon to be hers, I replayed the last few months, the signals I missed, the lies, the betrayals. Could been angry, could confronted them, demanded answers, but what good would that have done? They'd already discounted me, made me irrelevant. But what they didn't realize was I'd been paying attention all along, and I was already planning my next move. If and thought they could just walk away into their new life without consequences, they were dead wrong. Betrayal doesn't end with a courtroom divorce. That's just the beginning of the real game. Because when the truth finally cracks through that illusion of perfection, everything comes crashing down. And I was ready to watch that happen. Divorce, such a simple word for something so messy. It feels final, like the end of a long story. But when I stepped into that courtroom, I saw it differently. For her, it was a victory lap, a celebration of her so-called upgrade. She came dressed to impress in a sleek, tailored dress that screamed sophistication, smiling with confidence that made my stomach turn. And close behind her, lurking like a shadow. He never stepped into the courtroom, but his presence was deafening, proof that she wasn't just divorcing me. She was flaunting her betrayal as if it was some badge of honor. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be, she said as we sat across from each other at the negotiation table. I don't want this to drag out. The irony hit me. She'd already made it hard, stomping all over years of marriage like it was a worn-out rug she couldn't wait to replace. I kept my tone level. I don't plan to make it any worse, I responded. The lawyer laid out her demands, her share of the house, some furniture, a chunk of my savings she thought was mine. She probably expected me to fight for more, maybe even beg, But I didn't flinch, signed everything promptly, blinked, puzzled. "You're okay with all this?" she asked. I kept it simple. "Why wouldn't I be? It's just stuff." For a moment I saw doubt flicker across her face, but she quickly masked it with her smug expression. She thought she'd won, walked away with everything that mattered. But what she didn't realize was the house wasn't even mine. It was a rental I'd used when I started freelancing years ago. The real money was hidden in investments she knew nothing about, accounts I kept locked away. After signing, she leaned back, satisfied. "Well, I'm glad we handled this like adults," she said with a tone that bordered on patronizing. I just nodded. A week later, I packed my stuff and left that house she'd fought so hard to claim. I left her everything: furniture, decorations, even the expensive kitchen gadgets she'd never actually used. Let her have her spoils. Wasted no time moving in. I saw a neighbor's photo of him unloading boxes while stood on the porch, smug as ever. They probably thought they were building some perfect little life together, oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond their view. What didn't know was I'd already started collecting evidence: text messages, photos, even a GPS history showing frequent rendezvous at a nearby hotel. I could use it to blow everything up in court, but I decided to let karma run its course. I wanted to see that happen firsthand, from the front row. Over the next few weeks, I settled into my new life. My career exploded: new opportunities, bigger contracts, more money flowing in. Meanwhile, and paraded their happiness around town, convinced they were the picture of success. I didn't react, didn't call, didn't text. My silence was deafening, and I knew it would eat them alive one way or another. Then I got a message from a mutual friend. "Did you know's throwing a housewarming party? She and are really leaning into this new thing." I just chuckled. Was always craving validation, always trying to prove she'd moved up. But her shiny new life was built on a shaky foundation of lies, and that foundation was already cracking. That evening, as I looked out over the city skyline from my new apartment, I felt peace. Thought she'd won, but she had no idea what she'd really lost. Learned the hard way: something that is rightfully his always comes at a cost. I wasn't rushing revenge because, honestly, patience is a much poison. I was just getting started. Maybe imagined a picture-perfect life after she and made it official: weekend brunches, fancy trips, that glow of new love. But that illusion shattered fast. She kept quiet, but the cracks were showing. Dinners grew less frequent, vacations vanished, and their smiles looked forced. Rumors started circulating. Perfect hair and designer clothes were replaced with cheaper stuff. The flashy showman was recycling outfits he only used once. Gossip turned into stories. One day, a friend called me laughing. "You won't believe this. Been texting someone else, some young thing from his new job." I laughed, genuinely. Good for him, karma's a bitch. Caught him in the act and lost her mind. She went ballistic in public, screaming at him in the middle of then throwing her coffee at him. It was almost poetic. She, who once gloated about leaving me for a better guy, now reduced to throwing lattes in anger. And that woman was texting, not just a fling. She was someone he met at his job, young, carefree, and completely uninterested in settling down. The fool convinced himself she was worth risking everything, just like did with me. Of course, didn't take the betrayal silently. She demanded answers, expected to fix his mess. But he wasn't that guy. Instead, he blamed, said she was demanding, said they were having money problems. Their fights got louder. Neighbors told me they heard shouting late into the night. Eventually moved out, leaving that dingy apartment behind, no way to pay rent. She called me again, furious, accusing me of being right about all along, saying she'd been played. I just sat back, letting her vent. "You made your choice," I said. "Left me for thinking he was the upgrade. How's that working out for you now?" She was silent, breathing hard, then finally muttered, "I need your help." I looked at her through the phone, calm but firm. "You need to accept the consequences of your choices," I told her. She hung up, and I didn't hear from her again. Later, I found out moved in with his new girl, who quickly saw right through him. He was just as unreliable as. As for she, was left to deal with her mess. No job, no savings, no friends left. Her family had distanced themselves. They'd had enough of her drama. The life she'd fought so hard to build, it was ash. I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma had done all the work. There's a weird satisfaction in watching people like and destroy themselves through their own actions. They think they're clever, manipulative, untouchable, but life. It humbles them every time. While they're busy tearing each other apart, I was over here thriving. My work kept thriving, my income kept climbing, arguably over six figures now, and I was living the life I'd always wanted. And I stayed quiet about it. No need to brag, already dismissed me as the guy who never worked. I let her keep believing that because her ignorance suited me just fine. Instead, I focused inward. I upgraded my apartment to a modern penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek furniture, breathtaking city views. It wasn't just a home, it was a statement, a symbol of my new life. My career took off. I signed new clients left and right, and my annual income skyrocketed, over $513, $0, and still growing. I landed speaking gigs, partnerships, even investment opportunities. Every success was a quiet victory, proof I was more than ever thought I could be. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, people who appreciated me for who I was, not what I could give them. I started attending events, networking, taking trips just for fun. But the biggest change, internally. I learned to value myself in a way I never had before. For years, I'd poured everything into making happy, trying to meet her impossible standards, and in the process, I lost sight of my own worth. Therapy helped me a lot too. I had someone impartial to talk to who reminded me, you're not responsible for other people's choices. You're only responsible for how you respond. Those words became my mantra. I also fed my creative side, writing, photography, a blog about my journey, part personal journal, part professional insights. It gained traction fast because people eager to hear about overcoming pain and turning it into progress. And every now and then, I'd hear whispers about and their downward spiral, an ongoing cautionary tale. They kept piling up debts, arguing nonstop, drowning in regret. A mutual friend once told me, you wouldn't believe it's been texting some other woman, caught him at it and she flipped. I chuckled. Karma's a funny thing. Her confrontation was legendary. She lost control in a public, threw her coffee, tears in her eyes. It was the ultimate comeuppance, who once gloated about leaving me for greener pastures, now exterminated by her own choices, was even more reckless. He met someone else at work and she was everything was not, young, carefree, completely uninterested in settling down. Convinced himself she was worth risking everything, just like convinced herself she'd be better off without me. Their chaos continued. Moved out for good, leaving stuck with nothing. She called me again, furious, begging for help despite everything. I listened and then I told her, you made your bed, now lie in it. She hung up, defeated. Last I heard, he was couch surfing, jobless and practically a failure. Was left to pick up the remnants of her shattered life. No job, no savings, fatting friends. Her perfect world was nothing but ashes. Karma did it all. And you know what? That's the sweet part. When you've been betrayed and humiliated, you find out how resilient you actually are. I didn't need to lift a finger. I just kept living my life better and stronger every day. And thought they'd left me behind, but what they really did was set me free. Their story was their downfall, unraveling piece by piece because of their own arrogance. And I watched quietly, patiently, the collapse from a distance. Mutual friends kept giving me updates. Their life of luxury was slipping, dinners less fancy, vacations non-existent, their smiles increasingly forced. One of those friends even called, you won't believe it, and are behind on rent. They're about to get evicted. I just smiled. Karma, plain and simple. Her fight to take the house. It was just a bubble blown to burst. So as I sat in my new place, I didn't feel gloating, I felt peace. Thought she'd won, but she lost everything she cared about. He's paying the price for his foolishness. They're not just failing, they're sinking. And I haven't done a thing except stay true to myself. Once I ran into at the grocery store. Her cart was full of generic goods, her face pale and tired. She saw me and froze. She muttered, shaky. I responded neutrally. She tried to speak but couldn't. She looked crushed, like the powerful woman who demanded a divorce and flaunted her affair was just gone. I said, I hope you're doing okay, and she nodded quickly, eyes darting away. You too, she mumbled and pushed her cart away. Watching her walk off, I felt a strange mix, satisfaction, yes, but also pity. She made her choices, and those choices had left her trapped. I didn't need to say a word. Life had already taken care of her. And as I left that day, I realized something profound. Karma doesn't always need a push. Sometimes it just needs patience. It comes in its own time, and when it does, it hits hard. And they don't handle it well. When their false success unraveled, they lashed out, looked for someone to blame. One morning during a client call, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't save. For a moment, I considered ignoring. Curiosity pulled me in. I answered calmly. Her voice was tense, almost broken. "We need to talk." I leaned back, curious. "About what?" I asked. She hesitated. "What's going on?" I pressed. She paused, searching for words. "It's in me, things are tough. I was wondering if you could help." "Help?" I asked. "Help with what?" She faked humility. "Just a small loan to get us through." I burst into quiet laughter. "You left me, ridiculed me, and flaunted your new relationship. Now you want my help." "I'm sorry," she said, "but I can't." I told her, "You made your choices, now you deal with them." She hesitated again. "Just this once, please." I ignored her. "You don't owe her anything. She's living with her decisions." A week later, she and were officially evicted, hard deadline, no exceptions. They moved into a tiny, run-down apartment on the outskirts. The same friend said, "You wouldn't believe it. They're months behind on rent, barely holding it together." I didn't gloat. Their ruin was their own fault. This life of luxury was a house of cards built on betrayal, and one gust was enough to make it collapse. Next I heard was out of work altogether. That joke about her not working. Turns out she was just as unprepared for life's hardships. Her perfect image crumbled. One day I got a message from "I need to talk. It's important." I read it, then replied, "Is everything okay?" She answered quickly, "Not really, and I are going through a rough patch. Can you help?" I laughed softly. "Help with what?" I asked. She pretended humility. "Just a little loan to get us back on our feet." I told her I couldn't. "Sorry, figure it out." She called later or texted begging. I ignored her. Finally, they got evicted and she was left with nothing, no savings, no job, no friends. Her family turned away. The life she fought so hard to build was ashes. That was karma doing her job. And that's the perfect revenge. It's not loud or angry, it's silent. It's in your success, in your peace, your strength. I didn't need to fight. I just kept moving forward, and they watched it happen. Their downfall slow but inevitable. Because of their own actions. And me, I was thriving. My work prospered, my income kept climbing, over $500K now, and I was living better than ever. I stayed quiet, let them assume I was the same guy, clueless, lazy, whatever, because I knew the truth. I upgraded my life, sleek apartments, new friends, new opportunities. I even started a blog sharing my story, inspiring others. It grew fast because people love a good comeback story, and each update I got about it, more proof of their self-destruction. They were drowning in debt, arguments, regret. One day, a mutual friend called, laughing. Been texting someone new, caught him, publicly, screaming, throwing coffee, totally losing it. I chuckled. Karma again, poetic justice. And that girl, she was different, young, carefree, looked like she'd never settle, was reckless. He convinced himself she was worth risking everything. His own fall wasn't quiet either. She demanded answers, begged him to fix it, but he just blamed her, said she was demanding, that they had money issues. Their fights got loud, neighbors heard everything. Eventually moved out, leaving in a mess. She called me, furious. "You were right, it's a liar." I trusted him, and look where I just listened, letting her rant. "You made your choice," I said. "You left me for thinking he was better. How's that working out?" She finally snapped, "I need your help." I looked at her, calm but firm. "You need to own what you did, deal with the consequences." I hung up. She disappeared after that. Last I heard, he was couch surfing, no job, and no one left who could trust him. She was dealing with the wreckage. She had no money, no friends, and no future. The life she tried to build, it was gone. I didn't have to do anything. Karma already took care of it all. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living your best life quietly, confidently. Because really, that's the greatest victory. You prove your worth without raising your voice. You let life handle the rest. And they thought they escaped, but they just paved the way for their own fall. I watched it all, messy, slow, but certain. And in the end, I knew I'd won.